Sandringham, January 1892. In a bedroom, the future king is dying. He is 28 years old. Beside the bed stand his parents, his siblings, and his fiancée, the woman he was to marry in a few weeks. Outside, Norfolk lies under winter. Inside, Albert Victor fights for breath. He is the eldest son of Edward, Prince of Wales, Queen Victoria's first grandson in the direct line, the man who is to become king after his father. But tonight, it is not the crown that decides, not Parliament, not the family. It is the illness, influenza, then pneumonia, then silence. On January 14th, 1892, Eddie dies. And in this moment, the future of the British monarchy changes. Because Eddie was the heir many had feared. Not because he was cruel, not because he was dangerous, but because he seemed too weak. His tutors had sensed early that something was missing. Concentration, strength, decisiveness. He was friendly, harmless, well-dressed. But a king could not be harmless alone. So the palace tried to reshape him. He was raised alongside his younger brother George. George was to steady him. George was to order him. George was to make up for what Eddie lacked. George found discipline in the Navy. Eddie found only uniforms. Then came the final solution. A marriage. Mary of Teck. Cool, sharp, dutiful. Exactly the woman who might have steadied a weak man. In December 1891, the engagement was announced. The palace believed the danger was under control. 4 weeks later, Eddie lay in bed and died. Eddie did not escape either. The son born for the crown never reached it. But the crown did not wait. It reached for the next one. George had not been prepared to shine. He had been prepared to obey. He had just survived typhoid himself. He still stood in the shadow of his dead brother. The spare became the future king. Mary of Teck had just been Eddie's fiancée. Now she became George's future. The grief was still there. The logic of the crown was stronger. George married the woman his brother should have married. Not because the heart demanded it, but because the line had to continue. In 1910, Edward VII died. George became king. George V, no charmer, no genius, no man who commanded a room, but one who stood firm when others faltered. Then came 1914. Europe burned. And suddenly, George's own origins became a danger. The British royal house carried a German name, Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. On the other side stood his cousin, Kaiser Wilhelm II. In Britain, hatred of all things German grew, and George understood a name could become deadly. In 1917, he cut it off. Saxe-Coburg and Gotha became Windsor, a new name, an English name, a shield. George saved the monarchy by burying part of its past. But a man who ruled this way brought that harshness home. His children feared him. His house was not warm. It was disciplined, corrected, controlled. 2 sons came out of this house. One threw away the crown as Edward VIII. The other, stammering Bertie, had to carry it as George VI. George saved the crown, but he passed on the wound. George did not escape either. The son who never wanted to be king became the tool of its survival. Then came Louise. She did not want to be used. She wanted to disappear. No grand stage, no headlines, No court dramas. She married Alexander Duff, the Duke of Fife, a quiet man, older, Scottish, far from the glare around her father. To Louise, it looked like escape, a quieter life, a smaller world, a way out. Then came December 1911. The family boarded the SS Delhi. Destination: Egypt. Off the coast of Morocco, the ship ran aground. Heavy seas, panic, rescue at the last minute. Louise survived. Her husband survived. Their daughters survived, but the Duke of Fife came out of that sea broken. His health collapsed. A few weeks later, he died in Egypt. Louise had wanted to escape the crown. Instead, widowhood remained. After that, her life grew quieter, narrower, more invisible. Louise did not escape either. The daughter who fled public life was dragged back by disaster, and then almost disappeared entirely. But the cruelest captivity carried another name: Victoria. In the family, Toria. She was clever, sharp, witty, perhaps the most gifted of them all. In another family, she might have become a political hostess, a woman of influence, with her own house, her own circle, her own life. But her mother needed her. Queen Alexandra grew lonelier. Her hearing grew worse. Her husband had other women. Her world grew smaller. And Toria became the one who had to stay. Daughter, companion, secretary, comforter, shield. There were men. There were chances. There were doors. But every door led away from Alexandra. And Alexandra would not let her go. Toria saw the cage. She was not naive. She understood exactly what was happening to her. She knew her life was being postponed, year after year, until postponement became renunciation. Alexandra finally died in 1925. Toria was 57. For the first time, a house was hers. For the first time, a mourning was hers. She got 10 years of freedom. Then she died. George V, her brother, was gravely ill. When he heard the news, something broke in him. A few weeks later, he died too. Toria did not escape either. The cleverest daughter was not locked away. She was needed. Then there was Maud. She seemed like the one who might get away. She rode, she climbed. She loved dogs, horses, motion. In the family, they called her Harry. She married Prince Karl of Denmark, a minor prince, a quiet path, no British throne, no great drama. Maud expected a life on the edge. Then in 1905, the union between Norway and Sweden broke apart. Norway needed a king. Karl was chosen, not only for himself, for her. Maud was the daughter of the British king. With her, Norway gained closeness to Britain, standing, protection. Karl became Haakon VII. Maud became Queen of Norway, not because she had sought the crown, but because politics found her. Inside, she stayed English. She returned again and again to Sandringham. Even her son, the future King Olav V of Norway, was born there. A Norwegian heir born in an English house. Maud did not escape the crown. She only changed the country. Maud did not escape either. The daughter who wanted to seem free was made a queen. And then there was the child whose story barely exists. Alexander John, born in April 1871. Too early, too weak. After a severe illness of his mother's, he was baptized at once. 4 names for a life that would not last a day. Alexander John Charles Albert. 24 hours later, he was dead. No title, no marriage, no scandal. Only a child in Sandringham and a mother who would not give up his body. Alexandra mourned him with a grief that would return later. For Eddie, for Toria, for everything she lost. Alexander John did not escape either. A child was born into the dynasty and vanished before the dynasty could ever put him to use.